Welcome back, listeners, to another very, very interesting episode of the Mindful Journey podcast. I'm your host, Sana, and this is the space where consciousness meets action and deep reflection guides bold transformation. Now, in this episode, we are diving into a topic that is both timely and timeless: brain fitness, but not just as a concept, but as a personal revolution. And listeners, our guest is Arnold Beekes. He is a change maker who has lived three different lifetimes in one time, from navigating military discipline as a child to innovating in corporate boardrooms and to now pioneering in what he calls the art of unconditioning. His mission is to help us break free from the mental cages society builds and upgrade our brains for true performance, well being, and freedom. So, if you have ever felt like you are living someone else's life or living a different template, this conversation will meet you right where you are and show you the way forward. So, Arnold, as always, I'm so honored to have you here with us.
Thank you very much, Shana.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Okay, Anil, of course, let's begin with your journey. Um, when was the first time that you came across the concept of brain fitness?
Well, it's very rare for me because normally I don't know most of the time which year and how old I was and which things happened. But in this case, I knew, and well, I had to check it, but it was in 2019. I was just returning home on my bicycle from a meeting I had where I accompanied my sister in where she was a, well, let's call it a patient at the mental health institution.
Okay.
My sister is officially being diagnosed with depression, and she was doing their, well, they wanted her to follow several sorts of classes, and actually it didn't work. It didn't help. Actually, it made things worse for her, and I and then when she finished one class, there was a class about music therapy, and my sister dislikes music, and when she finished it, he said, "Well, do it again. We have a spot left, and do it again." And my sister was like, well, she became very, very nervous because she was like, "I don't want to do it again. I didn't like it. It didn't help, and now I have to do it again." And they were pushing her, so um, make a long story short, I decided to go with her and have a talk with the management
Okay.
about this approach. And while we were waiting outside to be let in into the meeting room, she saw a couple of people from other classes, and she had the chat. And I left her alone with her, and then she came back and she said, "Arnold, there were actually two people in the who I had met in classes, but had committed suicide last week." And I was
Okay.
like, wow. So then we had the meeting with the folks of the, well, mental health institution. And I was, well, not really surprised anymore, but really disappointed, you could say, that
Mm.
their lack of knowledge of the latest possibilities in helping people with, among other things, depression was totally lacking. And well, not to be arrogant, but I had much, much more knowledge than these guys. So, and I said, well, my sister's not going to do there. It makes it worse, etc., etc. So, but then I hopped on my bike to go back, and back meant not going back to my home, but going back to the home of my mother where I lived at the time because my mother had dementia. So, and she needed full time support, and I was the person giving that support. So that meant a very, very direct experience between a sister with depression and a mother with dementia. And I was on my bike. Is like this should be prevented. We should focus on prevention because the moment you are in this situation, either from my sister or my mother, most help doesn't work, or in the case of dementia, is totally lacking. And that is when I get the idea is like, hey, we do body fitness or prevention because we want our bodies to, well, some people do it to look good, but most people do it exercise movement to make sure you can do what you want to do with your body. And then I'm like, why don't we have brain fitness? So that was really the birth of my idea. I had already worked on certain parts of it, but that's when I really said, hey, we need to be working on brain fitness.
Yeah. It's really interesting to know how personal circumstances and observations they really, give so, I mean, brilliant ideas, and how simplifying it can be. And Arnold, you have mentioned in so many of our podcasts about how from the childhood itself, we are kind of conditioned. You had been conditioned, and when it comes to brain fitness, you speak of unconditioning as a core practice. But it can be really um, difficult, time taking process, very uncomfortable, unsettling, because we have to shed our skin. So how early life conditioning hijacks the brain, according to you, Arnold, and what does it take to reverse it?
Yes, but I would like to add to that, Sana, that any change is by definition uncomfortable. If you don't feel uncomfortable, there is no change.
Hmm.
So it's like it's just part of the process. A lot of people have forgotten is that anything new is uncomfortable. So I cannot recall but it like when you learn to walk, you were over as a baby, you were crawling and then you start to walk, and but that was uncomfortable. I can if you well, I don't know, I'm from the Netherlands. It's like everybody bikes in the Netherlands. So, but to learn to bike is very uncomfortable because it's a tricky thing with balance. Yeah, so that is uncomfortable. I can still vividly recall when had to learn to drive a car with a manual gearbox. You know, that most cars have a manual gearbox in the Netherlands. That is very uncomfortable because it's like, oh, I had to look out the window. I had to take the wing. I had to put my feet on the pedal and still look in the mirror and do all these things at the same time. I'm like, I'm never gonna learn this. So it's like all of these new things which you even have never done before, they are uncomfortable in the beginning. So again, and now, well, I don't drive a car or a bike or well, even walk with it. You don't think about it because it's become automatic. It's become a habit. So that's with any change. The main difference is if you add to that mix is like this is about learning something completely new, but it's the same process where you replace one belief, one habit, one way of conditioning with another one. The new thing is the uncomfortable one, and letting go of the old one is really, really, in a sense, I would say easy if you have the right motivation. And the right motivation is like, hey, I'm fed up with the feeling of not good enough. I have that feeling that I'm not good enough. Who likes that feeling? Nobody likes it, and everybody has that feeling. So to get rid of that, I say, hey, you want to get rid of it? Yes, yes, please. I would love to. Yeah, so getting rid of something which does not serve you, let me put it politely, That is not the difficult part. The difficult part is creating something new which you haven't done before.
Mm, I agree. I absolutely agree, Arnold. And then you also mentioned that our brains are under siege by external systems. I mean, we have media, we have healthcare, we have education, and whatnot. Um, so how do we protect our minds without going into trepidation or anxiety or isolation? That let's just detach, disconnect from everything, and just sit in silence.
Well, I'm there are many I would say uh causes of mental dis-ease. Yeah, I intentionally don't call it illness or whatever. It's a dis-ease. Yeah, yeah. You feel mental or emotional not okay. Yeah. Um. What going back to the thing is like what is the cause of that? And there are many different causes, but I would like to highlight three. And you preluded to that already. Number one is the use of smartphone and social media. Yeah, you can use it 7 days, 24 hours a day, nonstop. That is going hurting you. That is hurting you big time because these days, and it hasn't been like that from the beginning, but it's well, number one, it's very addictive. Number two, the algorithms show you Uh, I'm looking for a polite word. Not nice things, negative things, fear based things. Hmm? Uh, so it doesn't show you positive things, inspiring things, motivating things. Yeah, so that has a huge influence. Yeah. So that's number one smartphone, social media. Number two, and people are not aware of that, how the lack of sleep has a huge influence on your mental, emotional, spiritual health. Eat, sleep, not enough. Okay? You need to sleep on average something like 8 hours. It can be 7 hours, it can be 9 hours, but most people are only sleeping 5, 6 hours. There people are sleeping with the phone on the neck on their bed. Yeah, so sleep is really not only for your mental, emotional, spiritual, but just for so many other things is very important. So people are so busy with all kinds of things which I would say are not necessary that you really should pay attention and sleep more. The third thing is well, I will explain what I mean it, but I call it the denying of duality. It is
Okay.
pathologization, the medicalization of problems of emotions. It's like if you have a little bit of a busy young child, oh, you need to go to the doctor. It's like, oh, maybe he's got ADHD and he needs medicine. Mm, It, it's normal that a young kid has a lot of energy and
Mhm,
cannot focus on things. That's normal. Huh? So
mhm,
don't call it ADHD and go to the doctor. Uh, if you feel sad because you have a friend and your friend left you or betrayed you, well, it's logical that you feel sad. It's not that, oh, I'm depressed. Maybe I should go to the doctor and get medicine. No, that's part of life. You feel anxious, like, oh no, I got to do exams on at the university, and I need to go to the doctor and get me some pills because I'm anxious. Hey, it's logical to feel anxious if you do an exam.
mhm,
So we are medicalizing everything, and it's like, and that's why I call it denying of duality. Is like hey, there's happiness and there's anxiety, there's depression and excitement. There's yeah, so it things come in twos. It's like you get the good thing and you get the bad thing, and sometimes and always you shift from one point to another. But it's not like the negative things. It's like they're not supposed to be here. And if they are here, I take pills because I don't want to feel them. I don't want to see them. I don't want to experience them. That is what I call a denying of duality. Is like, hey, unfortunately, we live in a world where there is duality. So it is like, well, I've been a little bit sick the last few weeks. Now I'm
Mhm.
okay again, but it's like that I go to the doctor not for my sickness, but for the fact that I'm sick.
Yeah.
No, it's a part of this world in which we live in. Sometimes you're sick, and hopefully most of the time you're healthy. That is part of this duality. So don't try to medicalize it or pathologize it and say no. It is part of the world in which we live. So that is why there are far well, and I'm talking about millions of people who are currently using medicine for something which I think is between quotes a normal response or a normal reaction or a normal emotional feeling because of some well unfortunate circumstance.
Hmm. Very interesting. Interesting, and it's actually quite surprising as well. That sometimes even our bodies or minds' natural responses can make us feel overwhelmed, and kind of uh, uh, cage us to be a part of a system. And Arnold, you have seen different worlds, different times. You grew up in a world of strict conformity, external expectations, and then very little space for self expression. Um, when did you realize that you were living someone else's life?
Yeah, well, that actually happened after a corporate career, which in terms of corporate careers was pretty successful. But yeah, at some point in time, well, let's say I lost my job, uh, and then I was really like, I want to do something for myself instead of always having a boss and always having someone what I'm supposed to do, which is most of the time a stupid request and is not helping me and is extremely judgmental and just so it was like I was talking actually, and I'm talking about 25 years here. I had a personal coach, which is now pretty normal, but 25 years ago it wasn't. Um, and and I was talking like, I don't want a boss anymore. I don't want this anymore. I don't want stupid colleagues. I don't want this. I don't want that. And I was ranting. And then he
Mhm.
said, Arnold, I understand. I totally understand. But Arnold, can you tell me what do you want?
Okay.
Sana, I had no clue. I had no clue. I was at the beginning of my 40s. I had never anyone, not my parents, not my teachers, not had asked Arnold, what do you want? So that's the first time that I realized like I've been constantly meeting expectations of other people. And what I now define as I'm living other people's life. I'm not living my own life because I cannot even answer the question.
Yeah.
Uh,
Must be a very, very, once again, uncomfortable realization that goodness, and that too in our 40s. It can be heartbreaking and kind of life changing as well. Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I believe that moment of awareness was your turning point for you. And what did you do immediately after that? I mean, did you Of course, you left the corporate world and now you are into psychology and brain fitness. So, did you immediately get into this field, or you took your time, or what was your approach after that?
No, it's trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. I tried all kinds of different things. I had very was involved, and I was the founder of a couple of startups. And at the same time, I was working on my curiosity because I in the corporate world they would call me a hotshot, and but
Okay.
and I thought I knew a lot, like, but in hindsight, I knew a lot about the mental aspects of the thought, the thinking needed to run a business, yeah, a very large business. But I knew nothing. I knew nothing, Sana, about emotional stuff. I knew nothing about spiritual stuff. I knew nothing about the environment. I knew nothing about social aspect. All of these things, yeah, you mentioned like psychology, neuroscience, consciousness, things which I now added to my palette. I had no clue at all. You see, and I was extremely like, ooh, ooh, I want to learn about these things. And I want to understand how it works and how it is and whatever. And that's still driving my life up until this very moment. So it's like, yeah, it's partly a waking up process. Is that how little we know from the conditioning at school, at university, and in the business world versus a lot of skills which are needed to survive and also flourish in this challenging world in which we live.
Hmm. Oh, yeah, but that, I mean, and in your view, Anand, um, I mean, times are changing now. We are seeing uh, every something new or the other coming up every day. People are changing, systems are changing. It's the time is volatile. Um, so, in view right now, Arnold, what are the most dangerous ways we are still conditioned today? Especially when it comes to our brains and identities.
Well, I'm very happy and grateful that you asked that question, Sana,
Okay.
because I'm I'm actually ranting a lot these days against the number one enemy, which is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, AI, is destroying our brains. This is something which I've been saying actually for a few years already, but now there's a lot of research coming in from scientific institutions, which shows that it decreases our memory, our critical thinking, our capability to read, to write. All of these things are being destroyed because of these AI tools, which you can use basically to do everything. And it's not only the AI itself, like the large language models like ChatGPT or Gemini or whichever one you use, but it's also the combination of AI and humanoid robots. It's like last week in I'm a host in another podcast where there was, giving massages by some kind of AI equipment. It's like, yeah, I saw a, barista, the guy getting the coffee in a coffee shop, that was an AI stirred humanoid robot. So it's AI and AI with robots, and that is actually destroying our lives.
Mm. No, it's scary.
Well,
And
it is scary, but at the same time, we always have to be aware that we have a choice. We have a choice not to use it, or we have it not using is maybe not the choice, but use it in a limited way. Eh?
Mm.
In a very limited way. Like the main thing where I use some AI tools for, and they're very helpful, is to do deep research around the topic where I don't know much about. Eh? Yeah, in that way, it's very helpful. But
Yeah.
when I write some text or whatever, I don't feed it into AI. I don't ask AI to write it. It's like everything I do myself, because it's like the same thing coming back to the body fitness is, if you don't use a certain body part for even a few weeks, it becomes hard to use it. I mean, it's like, suppose you broke your leg, and you've been in plaster, and then after 6 or 8 weeks they put the plaster, and you think you can immediately run away or walk away. It doesn't work. You need to train your leg to start walking again. Eh? So
Mm.
it's already after 6 weeks, your leg loses that functionality. But the same is true for your brain. If you don't use it, you lose it. If you stop writing and you let everything be write, or every text be written by an AI tool, you stop the capability of being able to write. Yeah, it stops your capability of critical. If you accept everything what the AI answers and think that's 100% the truth, well, a lot of it is beside the hallucination and nonsense. Well, some of the stuff is not true, is not useful, or is just plain stupid answer. It's like, if you don't are not able of making that distinction, you lose your capability of critical thinking. So it's like, yeah, brain fitness in a sense, the same as body fitness. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Absolutely. The cognitive function, it declines.
Yes.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it all does require mindfulness and some consistent daily practices, I'm very sure. So any specific ones that you would like to advise our listeners, irrespective of their age, which they can do to make sure that they are fit, like the brain fit, not only body fit.
I my current message is it starts with an L. I get three messages which I would like to share. Number one is live your own life. Number two is learn continuously. And number three is love yourself unconditionally.
Mm, wonderful, wonderful. All the three golden rules, and this is irrespective of age or gender or location. Um, uh,
Culture, whatever. Yeah.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. So before we wrap up, and to further explore about this, if our listeners they would like to connect with you, Arnold, and the work you are doing around brain fitness, what will be the best way?
The most easiest way is to have a look at my website. It's called Braingym.fitness. Braingym.fitness is where they can find some master classes, which are videos around 90 minutes about specific topics like emotions, your uniqueness, relationships, curiosity. Those are the masterclass, and my main training program, from fitting in to flying out, which is a 15-week training program. We have one session each week of 90 minutes. Yeah, I give it live. Yeah, so it's not a recorded session. No, it's live, so I can live interact with the audience, and yeah, and then in the week between, you can study, you can apply, you can learn, you can hopefully make it into new habits in your life. That is the training program, and you can find that all on the braingym.fitness. And even if you still have some questions, there's a link where you can book a meeting with me, and we can talk about it.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes, Arnold. And you know, every conversation we have had on brain fitness, you always encourage that, we have to be not only physically fit, but uh, our mind is, it's not just a mirror, it is a muscle. So like any muscle in our body, I learned from you that it has to be trained, strengthened, and also freed from old patterns. So thank you so much for what you are doing. And I absolutely appreciate the way you shared your journey, the moments that led to the birth of brain fitness. So thank you so much, Arnold.
Thank you.
And if today's discussion, listeners, sparks something within you, a question, maybe a memory, or maybe a quiet sense of rebellion, don't ignore it. That's your brain asking to be liberated. So until next time, keep walking your mindful journey, keep your brain fit, and one conscious step at a time. Thank you so much.